Okay, Richard Laidlaw, thank you very much for doing this interview.
My pleasure.
I've been looking forward to this. I've got 5 questions that I'd like to ask you, and
hmm
in the questions I've inbuilt a little bit of a history or what's currently happening with your coaching in figure skating and
Yep.
some things that I think people would love to hear.
hmm
So you've had a huge amount of success this year with your students winning Australian titles or setting personal bests. Many people credit this to your passion for the sport and your dedication in creating opportunities for your skaters. What does success in 2017 look like for you?
Well, good question. I think I've had pretty good success over the last few years in competition. If we're talking success with competition, we're having national champions at various levels for the last couple of years. 2017, I think, should be. Well, I'm expecting James again to have a very successful year.
Yep.
Nationally, and of course then I've got Giuseppe and a couple others that are coming through that I'm expecting. I guess it depends on what you call success, really. Is it reaching PBs or is it winning or
I guess what I meant is from a holistic sort of coaching point of view. It could be winning. It might not be. It might be doing something that you haven't done before, or a competition, or a like a something you hadn't. Where do you want to take it?
I work pretty close to with fairly detailed plans. So I meet at the beginning of the year with all my students, and we nut out what they want to achieve and what I think they can achieve. And from there, I work out a plan or a strategy. That we've got an overall plan where they want to end up. Of course, they all want to go to the Olympics, and as we know, that's not necessarily possible for all of them. And I guess that's part of a journey as a coach to identify that at some point and give them other goals or targets to strive for.
Sure.
So with our plans, I set pretty realistic goals, and if we're able to achieve those goals, I think that's successful.
Okay.
And I'm planning on having some quite good results successfully with my students competing-wise. I've set a couple of them some pretty big goals with scores to get specific scores as well as specific elements by specific months. So I think it's going to be a good year, 2017. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a year where I'm going to really fire up my students to deliver some results.
Sounds great. Sounds great. Well, that kind of leads into my next question because it's no secret that your reigning junior Australian champion, James Min, is drawing a lot of attention to himself. I've watched James turn all of his double jumps into triple jumps in less than 2 years, including the axel. So how did you guide James to achieve this?
Well, it's all basically technique. For me, I'm a technician, and James is probably my only student. This is one of his brilliant qualities, is that he is able to translate whatever instruction he's given to a physical outcome. So if I tell him to jump in the air and stick one finger up his nose and the other one in his ear and close his right eye and rotate 3 times, he probably could absolutely do that.
Yeah.
Where somebody else, I'd do a version of. So that's the first thing that really works for James. The second thing is he really wants it. And you want those triple jumps. It's like the axle. When they hit an axle, for a skater to really want to get that axle, they really don't want to get it. And it's again with the double axle. They've got to really push themselves out of that comfort zone to get the double axle. And then with the triples, they've got to really want them. And James does. So he works really, really hard. He does everything I ask him. So he does a lot of off-ice, and we work specifically in detail on technique with regard to the transfer of weight and the click action. So he works very, very hard on that. He rotates really quick, so that's a bonus for him. But I think it always comes back to good technique. You can't go past good technique. So, and James being a master at being able to turn instruction into action. So that's what I think the secret is.
Yeah, James's dedication and work ethic, I think, is pretty unparalleled to a lot of skaters.
Absolutely,
it's next level.
I think that's what makes the difference between a good skater and a great skater is a lot of people like the idea of being a great skater and not to put in the work, and then there are those that want to be a great skater and put in the work. So I think that James doesn't talk about it; he actually delivers. So does a very good job.
Absolutely. So you're based in South Australia, and I know firsthand myself, growing up locally, how limited our access to ice time and training facilities can be. You've taken a leadership role in improving these conditions to the benefit of the local skating community. Do you see any positive developments on the horizon for improved facilities or improved access to facilities?
So you're talking about new facilities? Are you trying to get a scoop?
I could be.
So are you referring to me being on the board of the Ice Sports Federation?
Not necessarily. I just meant that. Put it this way, I've observed the figure skating sessions and the access aspiring figure skaters have to sessions and skating facilities and development programs and even other coaches and programs. I've observed that grow and become something that wasn't really there before. So it's not necessarily about just the rink, which obviously is a big thing, but opportunities with other coaches or pathways to junior Grand Prix and things like that.
Yep. I'm all looking for every opportunity I can possibly come across, whether it be some sort of funding or a grant, whether it's another service that we can use or another visiting coach. Maybe we can bring some more coaches. It's always trying to find more ice time, and as a result, I'm on the board of the Ice Sports Federation, which operates the rink, which I've been able to share with the board my knowledge of figure skating, which is, I think, resulted in some probably better times and outcomes for figure skating in South Australia as a result. Not that I use my position on the board to do that specifically, but I've been able to build better pictures, I guess, for the board to understand figure skating better. I'm an advisor to the Silver Blades Figure Skating Club, again, to try and help a volunteer organisation understand the processes and the requirements of competitive skaters. And I've got a huge passion for skating. So and I've got my own business aside from skating, so this is a passion for me. But I guess to really do anything, I do it 110%, whatever I try to do. And I guess that's why I see myself being on these committees and boards and that, because it all helps figure skating in South Australia. And I think we've turned a corner. I think we've got probably some of the best opportunities at the moment we've had for a long time in figure skating in South Australia.
Absolutely. So you regularly take your skaters to international competitions like ISU Grand Prix. This must help your coaching doctrine. Have these experiences changed you as a coach? And if so, how?
Yes, I have. For a long time I worked, we strive to deliver here in Australia in competition. And I guess the more I've travelled internationally to these competitions, the more that it's opened up the international world to me as far as competitive skating goes. So I look at things now from a world level rather than from an Australian level. So I'd sort of measure the improvement of my skaters or where we were wanting to go by Australian standards. Now I am now looking at international standards. So I guess I'm striving for bigger and more precise outcomes than I was before. So, So yes, it's definitely changed my outlook on coaching. I want more. I expect more from my students than I ever did before. So yeah.
Are there any relationships or friendships you've made in that overseas sort of arena that have perhaps influenced you or given you...
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You know, I've taken students, so we've trained internationally, and we've all, aside from competing internationally, and over that time I've met lots of coaches and worked with some fantastic coaches. Frank Carroll was one of them, who is very friendly and has gone on to offer advice. Manon Perronche is another one that's, you know, wonderful supporter and definitely there to support me if I need any assistance internationally or guidance. Lots of people, you know, even Brian Orser has been motivated, has been a great motivation to me, and I guess not, I wouldn't say that we're friends, but I definitely know him well enough for him to say, how's it going in Australia? So, and you know, those sorts of relationships where you get to talk about things internationally, I guess are what motivate me more to get higher results.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've never met Brian Orser, but I imagine it would be a fantastic experience given that he's coaching Yuzuru Hanyu.
Yeah, and Javier, and he's got a couple of other great kids coming through as well. Mm-hmm. Very friendly guy. He came to Australia and did a training camp for coaches a couple of years ago. That's when I first met him. Right. And now internationally, he's, I see him at all the competitions. In fact, a funny story. We were at, I can't remember what the competition was, but it was a Junior Grand Prix somewhere, and James and the boy that he had were the only two people on the practice session. Yeah, so right. With those two people in the rink, and James was going for it, hell for leather. It was our first day. We'd travelled for, I think, about 31 hours to get there, and so we were all a bit sort of shell-shocked. And he got on and did the practice, and could not do a thing to save his life. And Brian said, is it because I'm standing here with you? Shall I look the other way? And I said, no, I'm sure it's just that we're a little bit tired. So, and then the other kids from for the next practice came in and were warming up on the sides of the rink, and all of a sudden James started nailing everything. He really pulled it together. And he said, obviously he needs an audience. Yeah. So I thought it was a very, very funny situation. I guess you have to be there it was very, very funny at the time.
Mm-hmm. I bet. There's some of those stories I love about figure skating.
Yeah.
So the last one's it's a question about challenges. What do you think is your biggest coaching challenge?
My biggest coaching challenge, I think that's changed over the years, I think. Initially, it was to have champions and have skaters that do well. Now, I think my greatest challenge as a coach is to communicate with my students and be able to inspire them to be the best that they possibly can. You can have all the knowledge under the sun. You can be a brilliant technician, but unless you're able to communicate with the skater and be able to really connect, and you know, sometimes they're going through puberty and all sorts of things going on in their life, so it's not easy to really keep that relationship going. And you know, relationship is very, very important. So I've learned that the higher the level the skater, the higher their expectation, and the more difficult it becomes to coach skaters as they become more proficient. Sure. So now it really is about communicating and continuing to trust each other, build that trust so that they believe in the plan and they believe in what they're doing is the best path for them. So I guess for me, my greatest coaching challenge is to keep motivating those kids, keep pushing them to be the best that they can, even when they want to work against themselves sometimes. And they all go through that period where, you know what, you're working against yourself here. We're trying to strive for an outcome, and somebody needs to push you out of your comfort zone. So yeah. I'll have to be the enemy now and again.
I've seen a bit of that myself.
So I guess that for me, that's a real challenge as a coach is the other side of it, not necessarily the information that I'm giving, but to really work with the skater to be the best that they can.
Yeah.
So that's my greatest. That's what I think my greatest challenge is.
I'm sure that you can overcome that challenge very easily.
Well, it's day by day, I guess.
Mm. Okay, so that's all the questions I've got. Is there anything that you would want to say to the skating community or to other skaters or somebody who wants to aspire to develop as a coach?
In my opinion, I think you can never stop learning. I think just because you've been teaching it that way, it's not the only way. I think you can always learn something new. I don't coach anything like I learnt to skate. So over the years, I've totally changed my belief in technique.
Sure.
I work to a plan, and I think a plan is absolutely crucial, that you have a really defined plan so that you know where you're going. Communication is paramount. And I think for a skater, from a skater's point of view, aside from what they do on ice, they have to put the time in off ice. I think off ice training is a major part of becoming a good skater.
Yeah. Excellent.
There you go.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much for your time, Richard.
Sure.
I will see you at the ice rink. I'd also love to get some footage of you coaching and perhaps some of your students with the drone that I've got. So. Yeah. I know we have to go through some approval processes with that, but as long as everything checks out and we can do it, that would be great.
Cool. All right. I'll see you at the ring.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thanks. See ya. Bye-bye.